So to me, to be a Rambler is somebody who's going to be a faithful person who's always striving for excellence, and someone who's going to be helpful to the fellow man. And again, that's living Christ's example is always being somebody there is going to be there for another fellow human being throughout their lives.
Hello and welcome to the Rambler podcast. I first off just want to thank you for turning this on. My name is Jimmy Smith and I'm the host of the podcast. I'm the Assistant Vice President of Development and Strategic Initiatives here at Cathedral Prep. And thanks so much for tuning in. On this episode of the podcast, I have a really great episode to share with you for a conversation I had with Mike Mischler. We of course reflected on his time as a coach, and he shares with us some of the key elements that led to his success over his tenure of coaching for 20 as a head coach and 26 years total for football here at Cathedral Prep. And, then we wrap it up by talking to Mike about what he does for Prep nowadays as the Vice President of Operations. So definitely stay tuned and listen to the episode here with Mish. But also wanted to let you know before this started that we do have a handful of spots available at the Haggerty Family Event Center for a sign or banner or a digital ad to be displayed. So if you're a business owner or you work for a company that would be interested in getting your logo out to all of the visitors that we have at the event center through not just the Cathedral Prep home athletic contest, but all the youth sports that we host for tournaments and camps and clinics, all the different organizations who host their fundraiser events with us and different things like that. It's a really great spot to be able to advertise, as we have people from all over the Erie region who are coming to our facility to be able to come through our doors. So, but be sure to reach out to me. You can call me at Prep and my extension is 2294. Or shoot me over an email requesting more information. My email address is jimmy.smith@cathedralprep.com. All right, so thanks so much again. Now let's dive into this episode of the podcast featuring Mike Mischler. Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy Smith and welcome to episode number 29 of the Rambler podcast, where we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. On this episode of the podcast, this guest certainly knows what it takes for Cathedral Prep to be the standard of excellence. We're thrilled to have Mike Mischler as a guest on the podcast. Mike is a 1987 graduate of Cathedral Prep, where he was a team captain for the football team and a captain of the track and field team. After graduating from Prep, Mike attended the College of William & Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, where he was a member of the football, track and field, and rugby teams. He earned a Bachelor of Business Administration and Management in 1991. Mike began his professional career in sales and management, which gave him the opportunity to travel the country and all over the world, visiting 35 countries. He worked at several local organizations over the past 3 decades, including Reed Manufacturing, General Electric, St. Vincent Health System, and the Iroquois School District. Mike has also had a long career of working for Cathedral Prep and has filled several vital administrative roles within the school system. He's been the Director of Marketing and Development, a faculty member, Director of Special Projects, Director of Facilities, and he was most recently named Vice President of Operations. He was also the owner's representative for both phases of the construction of the Haggerty Family Event Center, the most recent building renovation project at Cathedral Prep, and the construction of the Salata Technology and Innovation Center. And if you didn't know, Mike has also coached 26 years of football at Cathedral Prep, including 20 as a head coach. His coaching career was saturated with well-deserved accolades and awards, highlighted by 5 PIAA state championships, 3 PIAA state runner-up finishes, 17 District 10 titles, 2 National Coach of the Year honors, 6 Pennsylvania State Coach of the Year honors, and induction into the Erie Metro PA Sports Hall of Fame. He also has sent over 300 of his players on to play collegiately. Although he finished his coaching career as the all-time winningest football coach in Erie County, the city of Erie, and Cathedral Prep histories, his reputation for establishing a positive and faith-filled team environment and developing young student athletes into responsible, successful young men of integrity and moral character is one of his greatest achievements. Mike is married to the love of his life, Mary Walsh, and together they are blessed with 5 children: Melissa, Villa class of 2013, Katie, Villa class of 2014, Michelle, Villa class of 2016, Joseph, prep class of 2018, and Kelly, Villa class of 2020. So, nonetheless, Coach Misch, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jimmy. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to have you on. Been looking forward to this episode. You were one of the names top of my list to have on the podcast. A lot to talk about and cover, but you also were pretty busy this past school year leading up to this previous one with the construction and everything.
Right. Yep. That was a huge task, but yeah, I think we're in a good spot now, and just working on the general stuff and the day-to-day things at this point. So
yeah, awesome. And I've known you for many years, back to when even I met you when I was younger. My dad was head baseball coach here, and knew you through the years working for prep professionally, and got all the respect in the world for you and everything you've accomplished. So I know we're real fortunate at prep here to have you in the position you're in.
I appreciate that. I love prep, and it's never thought it would become my life professionally, but it has, and never thought it would be I don't think there's a cooler thing to be able to have as a business card with the old prep P that we had on it. And I got that when I became the director of marketing and development. I thought I'd made it, so it was a cool time back then, but I still love being here and still love serving the mission of the school. Yeah, absolutely. And so when you look at why that P means so much to you, it obviously starts with your time as a student. Can you talk to us a little bit about why you even ended up coming to prep, and maybe a little bit about your time at prep, some memories you have, things of that nature? Yeah, I was always going to be a Fairview kid. That's where I went to for grade school, and then my parents moved me to Erie Day School in 6th grade and got Fairview's always been a good school district, but they wanted a little bit more for my sister and me and moved us over there. So, coming to prep wasn't a natural thing. I wasn't in the, Catholic school system, and back then 90% of the student body was coming directly out of those, dozens and dozens of schools that we used to have. So, right. So it was just something. My brother ended up coming here. He was a class of 81. He left Fairview his senior year and moved over. And so I looked at it because of that. But, once I learned about the school and, and its traditions and, wanted to play football as well. It was, to me, it was a best decision I ever made. I don't remember a lot of the open house and all of those things like that. But it just, I've always said God's watched out for me and blessed me in many ways. And one of the greatest blessings he ever did was had me find my way here, to prep. And so now you're at the school,
you're a student, you're getting involved between, like you mentioned, football, you did track and field. What are some things that stand out to you from your time as a student when you were attending prep?
Well, you think about the faculty and staff that serves the place, and back then, my first couple of years was Monsignor Dollinger, then Monsignor Haggerty ended up taking over, and he was a headmaster back then. You remember, the leadership. I remember I never had Mrs. Mullen, but I, remember her roaming the hallways, and Coach Jambrowski, people like that, the legends, that are, people always will remember, and but the biggest thing is the brotherhood. It's the the friendships you make. It was the atmosphere. It was just it was the excellence that we're striving for in the classroom, but also socially, it was a very positive thing for me. And the friends that I got off the football through athletics and the football program and track and field programs. Those things, those are life lasting things that happen. So. Certainly the rallies. I remember certain specific rallies, like it was yesterday, and the one right before we went to states in basketball, and Mark Atkinson climbing the balcony into the peanut balcony and peanut gallery, and having Coach Flaherty flipping out because he might have fallen, and going to those games. Even then, I when we don't have kids come to these big playoff games, I don't understand it, because to me those are the greatest memories. Just getting on a bus, driving the middle of state, and going and cheering your lungs out, trying to help us win a game. Those are the things I really appreciated. And of course, the faith part of it, the faith component, was something I didn't get in any of my grade school at Fairview or Erie Day School. So having that faith component and being able to be around priests who are, and see them as normal people, and and nuns that end up being people that you just you learn from and word influences on you. I mean that was a component I have always felt was a blessing as well as a part of the prep experience.
Yeah, it's all encompassing. Really hits on all the different facets of life where you can have the faith element, you got the athletics, the brotherhood, obviously academics. It all comes together through your experiences here as a student.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a special place. It's a very special place, and I'm somebody who's been able to at least give back, and and hopefully I've had a positive impact over the years. So it's just funny. I feel like I blinked, and it's all of a sudden it's 25 years later as an employee, and it's kind of crazy. But
pretty neat experience. And you mentioned a couple of the teachers that you would see maybe in the halls or you had for classes. Is there anyone who maybe stands out a little bit more to you than others in terms of who's made an impact in your life, whether it's a teacher, coach, or what have you?
Yeah, I talked about this at the Hall of Fame induction, and there's 3 people that are off the charts for me. Where I'll start with Sister James Francis. I mean, she was just an incredible human being, and she was my English teacher, and just loved her. I mean, just so blessed to be able to have known her, and she passed away this past year, and it's a great loss. But she wouldn't, I don't know if people know this or not, but she wouldn't write in red on her. She wouldn't mark your paper up in red because she didn't want to make the paper bleed, so she used green or another color just to tell you how to fix things. And every time she saw me, we had the same birthday, so I felt honored about that. And so we'd always say happy birthday to each other. But but it was also, she always would tell me I was her favorite student, and whether she was one of my favorite teachers for sure. But she had that way of making, I think she tells everybody you're my favorite.
Yeah, right,
student.
exactly.
But, so
turned the corner, told another kid the same thing.
But I definitely had a very special relationship with her throughout life. I mean, Bob Achille is another person that I just have high praise for. I'm so blessed to be able to keep working with Bob.
Yeah.
And it was Mr. Achille back in the day. He scared the bejesus out of me. My first day of school. He doesn't remember that, but I'm like he came in. It was his second year, I think, teaching, or third, and he laid it on the line right away. I was like, man, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have come here. I mean, this guy's a militant, and but he just wanted things done a certain way. He's an organized, but a phenomenal teacher. I love math, and I loved math anyway, but he made me love math even more. And I'm just glad to call him a friend now. And somebody who is a coworker.
And cornhole partner.
And a cornhole partner, yeah. So and
for the listeners, we had our faculty and staff end of the year picnic, and Coach Misch and Bob were partners against me and Tony Parsons, and we had a real close game, but it was
Bob made the winning throw.
He had the winning throw.
Right, but anyway, but yeah, I mean, I love that, man. And then the other one I want to mention is, I mean, I have to say, Minna George meant a lot to me. Pat Saituk, who is still a very, very good friend. Those are my coaches. But the guy who had an incredible impact on me as a mentor and as a teacher was Charlie Heidelberg. Mr. Heidelberg was my strength coach, but he was also a life coach for me. He's never been afraid of telling you what he thinks, and very, very faithful man. And again, another person I've been blessed to be around for so long, and not just, hey, those 4 years were great and never see you again. I mean, he's been in my life and I've been in his, and I think he's an important man in so many ways to me.
Well, and how much he cares about people. I mean, I never had him as a coach, but he would see me, know my name, talk to me, ask me how my parents are, talk to me about all those things, and just take the time for just a few minutes. And I never even had him as a coach, but that level of character of a guy.
He'd be a great podcast
interview.
Honestly.
He's on my list.
Awesome. He's to me, he's a Hall of Famer here. He didn't go to prep, but he's literally helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young people. I mean, he's coached every one of my kids,
Wow.
So which is amazing.
That's
my 4
cool.
daughters in track and field. So he's just an amazing man.
Yeah. So then, fast forward, we'll skip a few years later in terms of, just kind of going through your story a bit with your time with prep. You kind of mentioned earlier, you got the business card now with the P on it, right?
Yeah,
You're feeling pretty official. But, that's pretty cool, right? You get to start working for your alma mater in a place that it's not just a job to you, it's a place that you care about, and I can relate with that. I feel the same way. You know, how did that professional relationship start with you in prep? How'd that role come about? I mean, talk us through a little bit what you started doing from the beginning when you started working for prep.
Well, another guy, you know, I love him close with is Tom Calabrese. I mean, Tom's was working here for a long time, and the position opened up for director of marketing and development. And I had been working, I was international sales for Reed Manufacturing. That's where I went to all those countries, and I was making phenomenal money. I was still coaching football. I was a prep freshman coach, you know, but with my family, it didn't work out. It wasn't working out. I mean, I was doing as well as I could, but you know, you're going away for 6 weeks, you know, 6 weeks at a time on trips, and your wife's home with, you know, one or two little ones, and you know, we ended up obviously getting 5 children. But I mean, it was hard, and this opportunity came up, and I said, you know what? I mean, I'm going to look at this. Tom called me and said, hey, you should apply for it. He supported my application, and I ended up getting hired as a senior administrator back then, and at 25, 26 years old, and you know, did the marketing and development. You know, so back then it wasn't, you know, we had an annual fund that was so, and we had a bingo we were running, and you know, so I felt like, you know, I know what people like Chris Haggerty have done, you know, and the people that have taken over those positions and those roles. I mean, and where it's grown from, you know, but I feel like I did a good job basically building it to what it was to hand it off to somebody who really knew what they were doing, you know. But to me, my thing with that role was more cultivation. I think I was good with that, you know, the Hilbert family and speaking
of the Hilberts, you guys planned that 75 year,
right? You know, John and I and his brother Joe were, we kind of ran the 75th anniversary together, and got to know them very well that way. But you know, so I have skills I think that are unique to me, and you know, and I'm not good at some other things, you know. I mean, so it was a really good role, I felt, to really kind of, you know, we only had like a half-time enrollment person back then. We you know, had a secretary that was, you know, there, but I mean, it was, you know, and that was it. So it was, you know, 2.5 of us running this huge, and we ended up expanding into a bunch of different events, you know, large things that way. I started up Casino Erie and things that we could have big fundraisers for the sports teams and clubs, and so they had an opportunity to make some money, but also the major gift cultivation, all those things that happen, and all the great donors we've had over the years. I still know many of them, and it was a great opportunity for me to really, before I became a football coach, you know, learn who was who at prep, and you know, and it's still something I rely on to this day.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of covered a lot of the other different roles that you've served through the years, and it's pretty neat because like you kind of were in the infancy stages of that development and marketing department, and you've seen it grow to what it's been. But also, I mean, you've worked in, you know, facilities, and you've overseen construction projects, and you've seen so many different aspects of the school side of things, and you know, like when you look back, the different roles you've had, what are some things that maybe stick out to you, whether it was inception of CPAC in the day and the construction of it and seeing that through fruition? I mean, what kind of stuff in terms of your employment with prep?
Yeah, I mean, the timing worked out right. My children were, our daughter Melissa was just coming into high school, and that's when prep and Villa kind of, you know, merged, managed, you know, administratively.
Right.
Not necessarily on one campus, but they, you know, administratively, you know, prep was overseeing things. So I was, you know, I had an opportunity to come back as, you know, director of special projects, but I was running the event center, which you know very well, that job, because you did the same thing. But I did the you know, from the ground up, that construction project with the, you know, Frontier Construction, Rob Doyle and his crew, and you know, just kind of oversaw all that, and then took over the operations of that at the same time, doing a couple other things like the, you know, the EITC, the tax credit program that we rely on, and you do a great job with that too. So and then the sports guys, which you also did. So you kind of took a load.
I know. I was gonna say,
but
got to pass the baton right over to me on that one.
Exactly. So, but it was, I mean, that was that's how I got into that. So I mean, So I learned a lot. I didn't really have a lot of experience at Iroquois. When I did leave for a couple of years, I oversaw that construction project.
Okay.
But they had a clerk of the works. He was the guy on the ground walking in, making sure everything was done the right way. And I was more kind of just overseeing it for the school board and my boss, who was the superintendent, so Dr. Buznowski. So I had some experience in it. Again, nothing I've been trained on. I keep joking. I have a guy who was sitting here an hour ago, and he was using language I have no idea what he's talking about, construction language. And there's times I'm in a meeting where I'll Google what the heck does that mean, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I know what he was talking about, because they like to use acronyms. But if I have no idea what they're talking about, I'll stop. I go, I'm a football coach pretending to be a facilities guy, so if you could just please explain this to me. But I've learned a ton in this role. Though I currently have, and I'm enjoying this greatly with the vice president of operations. It's overseeing this past construction was a very, very stressful time. I mean, the Salata addition is a huge blessing to the school. We want to thank Jean Salata and his family for financial support to make this addition a reality. Right. And this is a dream. I mean, it's a beautiful new space. Anybody out there who can get in here to see it, I mean, they're blown away. I mean, I invite any alumni from Prepperville to please come and see it. It's a really exciting new space, and the steam, the stuff that we have upstairs and on the ground floor with the more of the arts, and the music and the choir room and those things. But you get upstairs in the esports room and the balcony that we're about to dedicate to Villa Maria Academy and their students. It's something. It's really just a beautiful building. And but there's a lot of stress in it to build it. And I mean, we had a short timeline, and the funniest thing in the world, we have pictures. About 7 days before school was supposed to start on the 15th of September, we started later. There is not a person in the world that said there's no way you're opening up school, but we had it sparkling. We had it ready to go.
It was ready to go. Yeah, you and your crew did a phenomenal job. Getting the building as ready as you could around construction, and then as the contractors left, there was still a lot of work to be done in terms of cleaning it up, moving things. A lot of cleaning.
A lot of credit goes to everybody who helped out. I mean, administration helped out, but I mean, my crew, it's specifically our custodians, and our head of custodians is like Robert Brzezinski, and all the people that work for him, and then Andy Zazorek, who was more of our head of maintenance over here. Just amazing what they did to help get us ready, Right. And we were all rolling our sleeves up and cleaning and washing windows. My wife came in. I mean, as Kevin Smith, our new president, and doing cleaning areas up. So it was a team effort. So.
Well, one of the things that's neat, and we kind of jokingly were saying, passing the baton to me on several different, things that you used to do that I took over. But it was always fun to ask you questions about stuff, and you always knew the origin of here's why we did this, here's why we did that, and you've had so many different roles in the school, know so many different people. It's a tremendous amount of value that you provide from that. And so you're working at Prep, you're doing all these different types of positions and gaining a lot of experience, whether it's CPEC, the event center as it grew, now the Salata Center. But take me back to even when, the coaching opportunity came up. Whether it was how you ended up becoming the freshman head coach and then leading to the varsity head coach. Talk to us a little about how that came about.
Yeah, I went to the state championship in 1991. I'm so proud. I mean, I'm seeing my school's name in the USA Today. I just thought that was a cool. I say it now, I still get chills, and just thought that was bragging all my fraternity brothers down at William and Mary, and I just thought that was a great moment. And I. Hooked in with Minute George. I came back. I actually coached discus first. I came back and coached for the track team, but then the opportunity came up. Minute said, "Hey, I have a position open," and volunteer. But my first 6 years were volunteer, I don't know if young people know what volunteer is, but that's something when you do something for free. Everybody likes to get paid $1,000 an hour right out of the chute. But anyway, we used to do that, back in the day. Right. So we'd help out without getting paid. So So I came on the freshman staff, and I was, Pat Sytuk actually spent 1 year. People don't know this, but he was a head JV coach.
Okay.
I was one of his assistants as well. And, coached with Pat DiPaolo and a couple other guys. Tony Himes is a really good friend of mine still.
Yeah.
So I spent, 3-4 years, and my brother-in-law was getting in. James Walsh, my my wife's youngest brother, and so I was able to coach him, which
Oh,
is
that's
kind of
cool.
cool. So
Yeah.
anyway, so I mean, I don't know. I came through. Minna left prep, and John Burchell came on, and John's the one who gave me the opportunity to be a head coach. So he hired me as the head freshman coach, and we had 2 amazing years. I mean, we had 2 amazing classes. I mean, the talent was unbelievable, and so we it was the first year was a bunch of guys. I want to get into names, I guess, because I won't be able to mention them all. But
Right.
but there was just some studs in that class. We were really good team, and I think we had 1 loss. I think we were 9-1, and then the next year, which was the 2000, eventually the 2000 team, when they came in, just stacked with talent, and we went undefeated, untied, unscored upon, and it just so happened they were going to make a change that year. A bunch of people applied for the varsity position, and I threw my hat in the ring. I was a senior administrator, but I had no pull that way. It was a big deal. I mean, I went over to the headmaster's house, that we now call it the advancement house, but and they had 15 guys around a table interviewing for this position. I'm walking in. I had no business applying for it. I didn't, I'd never been a head coach other than the freshman. I never even coached a varsity down.
Right.
I scouted all the time for them. I did all that stuff, and I played in college, but I only played a couple of years. And so I didn't really have, other than my success as the freshman coach, if you look back at it, it's insane they hired me. I mean, honestly. I mean, it ended up working out, I guess.
It did work out, but from that vantage point, looking at it at the time,
It did. My relationship with, somebody who, in my work life, I should mention, is Monsignor Bruce Allison. I had a really good relationship with him. Tony Himes was the AD, and they brought Joe Kimball in to hammer me on my X's and O's, and and I passed that part of it. But Joe Kimball was the head coach at Mercyhurst University, and anyway, it's insane. I mean, I did that they hired me, and I mean, I don't know. I still to this day kind of scratch my head on it, but I was going to bring in Joe Moore on my staff, so obviously I think that added value. Kind of the young guy, learning from the mentor, and that's kind of what worked there. And Joe's another guy. It was hard to work with Joe. I mean, anybody who's ever worked with Joe is Joe's not an easy guy to work with, but he's an amazing, talented, smart coach who's a motivator, and he was an incredible blessing to me in my life, and what he taught me about football in that short amount of time. He was on my staff for 2 years in '98 and '99, and but having him come on, I think that gave some comfort to that group of people that eventually picked me. And I was a prep guy and a younger guy who's committed a lot of my life to the place already with being in that role of director of marketing and development. So I mean, I just think back that I remember Mike Gallagher popping behind a tree. Somehow he got word, and and so he wanted to break it before.
Of course he did.
Yeah, he comes. I'm pulling into my house, and he's figured out by who got the call because anyway, this is bizarre. I go in, I got pictures of my wife and I hug it. I don't think she knew what was going on when we committed to that, because it basically changed our lives forever. The statement of a football widow is a real thing. So when you're a coach's wife, it's a hard life. But she's amazing, and always I wouldn't have been as successful without her. So anyway, but I mean that's more or less, what happened. I mean, they took a roll. They rolled the dice, and we had immediate success. I mean, we went 2-4 my first year. I remember that fourth loss we lost 4 in a row. We were 2-0, and I think we lost 4 in a row. And I was against St. Ed's. We lost 28-0. It was October 10th, 1998. My sister got married that day. I was at the wedding, but couldn't go to the reception. And I just remember that because I let down my sister. I let down prep. I've never been that well.
You never forgot that date either.
Never. I won't ever. October 10th, 1998. And I just remember, I'm like, what did I do? I'm in over my head. I remember just thinking that. And all of a sudden we turned around. We won 7 straight, beat McDowell for the first time in 5 years. And then the crowds just started growing, and we ended up that year when we played, we won a couple, we won District 10, won a couple playoff games, and it just kept, people were like, wow, Prep's back, and, we get to the Newcastle game, and, Taunton Ridge is there, there's a TV station broadcasting. This is my first year. There's over 11,000 people.
Jeez.
There's not a seat to be taken. And I was standing remotely at the vet, and it was unbelievable. We ended up losing the game on a freak, play. We should have, they hit us on a shovel pass to basically take the lead, and they ended up winning the game. But we beat the snot out of each other that game, and I mean they lost like 3 of their stars. They lost the state championship by 50 to CB West.
Oh wow!
And I'm actually kind of happy we didn't win that game, because I don't feel like we would have been as competitive the next 2 years if we would have went down there and just got it handed to us like they did.
Yeah.
But it was still you knew prep was back, prep football was back, and we were ranked high in the state. We were we were a little bit upset. I think we were final ranking. It was like 6 or 8 in the state or something like that after being in the Final Four. I thought that was an insult. But I mean, it was that was a great group of kids. We only had like 8 seniors, I think, 9 seniors, and but that was a great starter year. Then the rest happened, and it was history. So. And
this was back in the McDonald's Fieldhouse days, right?
Oh,
That's where.
Yeah, loved it. I love that. I kept the same when we moved over to the event center. I try to keep these same weird traditions I had about how I walked through the locker room before a game gave this pregame speech. But those were magical days. It was a great time.
Now, I'm not trying to date you by making this comment, but I think I was 8 years old when I read the story of the 2000 Ramblers. The book that Bravebender.
Right.
And I mean, it's one of the first books I remember reading, like as a kid, not a picture book, But I mean, things like that. I remember my dad giving me a copy of it, and I read it, and I just soaked that up, and that's when it really started for me. That prep culture, the expectations, and just the excitement around being a future Rambler. Reading that book, I probably read it, 3 or 4 times when I first got it, and was just so excited about it. So I didn't say that to date with anything, but it's just neat that all these years later, with the stories you have. So, question in regards to coaching wise. So you go on, you have that first year you did, and then the next 2 years, of course, runner up, and then state champs. Did you feel the pressure, now the expectations of prep football being back, that, okay, you went from a nobody to now the hero and savior of prep football? Did you feel a lot of expectations that came with that type of...
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, the pressure was... I mean, truth be told, I was having panic attacks. I didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
But it was like weird. I get like to a point where, I remember a couple times we were at Bishop Timon in 2000, and we were number 1 in the state, and or number, I can't remember. We were 1 or 2 in the state with CB West, and I just remember we just had a horrible first half. They ran this defense, and I was the offense. I called all my plays for those, first, 7 years, and then they just ran a defense, that was kind of ludicrous, and for whatever reason, our passing game wasn't going that night, and it was halftime, and I chewed our team out, and Charles Rush reminds me about what I said still to this day. But I mean, we came back out and ended up taking control of it. But until we finally put them away, like I'm under pressure, I'm very calm. But then when it releases, when I know I'm past the pressure, and that's when my body like reacts bizarrely. So but back then I'd have a hard time breathing, and I was so overweight. People thought I was having a heart attack. It was crazy. But I mean, that pressure was that's real.
It's real.
I was putting on myself. I think there was some reality to it. I don't think, and I'm not taking a shot at anybody else. I just feel like the prep football job is one of the hardest athletic jobs in this entire state. I mean, and I do think certainly in Erie, there's just so many people that have that expectation, partially because of what they believe goes on with, how we get athletes and stuff, which is a joke, but but more so because we have that tradition of winning, and we have that expectation, and there's not any room for, there's no room for even bad games. You should play at the level you're supposed to play at.
Right.
And if you lose, you lose. And I've had some big losses, and as a coach, and some big wins, and but the pressure is very real. Yes.
Yeah. And then you go a handful of years where you guys didn't win a state championship. So I'm sure by the time, I'm assuming, when you got to that 2012 season and you guys pulled off state championship, I'm sure that felt pretty good to know Okay, it wasn't just those group of players that made Coach Mischler who he was.
Sure, yeah.
Getting back to that place to win another state championship after those years, I'm sure felt pretty good as well.
Yeah, I did, and I had mentioned already. I left prep for 4 years, in there, and Don Hall came in, and he was my successor predecessor. So
One of the same,
right. So and did a great job when I wasn't here. But it was getting back and coaching out at Iroquois. I did for like I did for 3 years, and I enjoyed that greatly, and there wasn't the same pressure, and that was partially my problem with it. I felt like, there should be more of an expectation out here. The kids all wanted to win. They all worked hard. They all were the same type of kids. They were great, but there was not that expectation. They're like, hey, and so I did miss that part, but I enjoyed it, but I also missed it, and so when I got back, I immediately, that pressure comes back. We got our butts kicked, I think, in 2011, I think it was.
I'll tell you, I was in between my sophomore and junior year. I think my junior year, fall of 2009, would have maybe been your first year back. Because I remember when it was announced that Coach Mischler was coming back to coach. I mean, the talk among the student body at the time was legend. The legend's coming back. It's legend status already. And that was before you even went on to win, as many more as you did. But so it was pretty neat to be a student, as you were coaching too, and coming back for that time.
Yeah, those were amazing. Yeah, it was an amazing time.
Yeah.
But again, it was just. I've been very, very blessed. To even have those opportunities. But the pressures, the pressure's always there, and it's and I think it should be. I mean, I think Coach Cray's feeling the same pressure, and he should. But he's the kind of person that's going to. Eat that up, and you have to be a certain kind of person to be able to handle that. Like I would always say, I'm going to work and I have 10,000 people watching me doing my job, and it's, so no delay games, coach, no dumb decisions, no bad play calling, don't take the time out at the wrong time, all that stuff.
Or every Joe and Harry will tell you for the next week.
Right, exactly. Well, they're doing it that night. I'd get text messages in the middle of the night, you're the worst coach in history. I mean, it's just, parents challenging me to fight on my lawn. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people don't get that goes on. I mean, and I feel like it's those are the negative things. The positives are the players and and the coaches and those relationships.
And I mentioned in the bio, it was over 300 different athletes have gone on to play and collegiately, and so when you reflect a little bit about your time coaching and the level of success you've had. What things you point to as to reasons why you were able to achieve the success you did? Obviously you had great teams, you had great coaching staffs there along the way, but what was it for Mike Mischler that allowed him to lead the teams you did to the success you've had?
I think, for me personally, it has little to do with me. I mean, it's the fact that I've had an opportunity to coach phenomenal athletes who have everything in common with each other. I mean, they come to a great school where the faith is valued, where it's at the forefront, which I try to keep there.
Yeah.
I wanted them. I've always talked about. I just read Pat Fitzgerald and his resignation letter. When from Northwestern, he said the exact same thing I've been saying for 30 years. But I'm like, all I want you guys to do is become, good fathers, good husbands, and it's gonna be good husbands, good fathers, good citizens, good people, men of God, and that's what we strive for. And we have those kids, those players, and I can't, I wish I could name every single one of them. As soon as I start naming one, I'm like, so right now I can't go down that road, but. I mean, but there's just so many that I'm still to this day very close with, and but that's what made us go. I mean, it's just. The talent was always there, it's just trying to get that, sometimes there's more than we had and sometimes there's less than we've had, but I guess that was our job, was, to get as much out of those as possible, which leads me to the second reason, which is my staffs. I've always hired well. I've always hired people that complimented me well. And I feel like, again, that's another way God's blessed me, not just with those outstanding athletes, but with men that were good leaders, good people, good representatives, good role models. Not all of them have been, but I mean, for the most part, I think I've been blessed with guys that are, are good football coaches, but because they're honest and true people that are really out for the best interests of the players. And that's, I think we use the term love a lot. I think that's a fair term on a football field. I tell the boys, I still tell my boys, and I see them, I love them, and but that's what it is. You're trying to build relationships, and you're trying to build a team around each other, and having trust there, and that's to me is the most important part. And keeping that faith value at the forefront of it is also. So praying after our games. I started the thing I started. Now I see teams all over this area, which I love. I feel kind of proud of it, but I don't know why. We had a death in the family. Some kid's grandfather died, and I said, you know what, we need to go and be there for him. And this is my first year, and so get the teams. Hey, we're meeting at this funeral home, and we would go in and kneel down in front of the casket and give them a hug, give the family a hug, and we'd say Our Father, Hail Mary, and a Glory Be, and just and send their loved one off the right way, but support them that way. And and the team did it for me when my dad passed, which was amazing. I never felt that end of it. I was always on the other end of it. So it was something that, to me, those are the things that I value the most, and and I can't tell you how many times people just say that. It's the most amazing lesson you can teach a young person is they're taking, especially these guys, because they can get in their phones, go play video games, go do whatever they're going to do, and they don't like wasting their personal time, but taking that 15 minutes out of their day to go in and give respect to somebody who lived a life and who lived a great life in support of a player, a fellow player, a fellow coach that had a loss is a profound lesson. I'm very proud of. That's probably one of the more proud things I will say. I'm happy I started doing that. And I just see all the other teams, even other schools, doing it now. So
well, and that's cool because one of the questions I had here that I was planning to ask you is how do you build a culture of winning, a winning culture within your team and your program, and a lot of the aspects you just hit on really cover that, because I feel like if you're a team that's about not just yourself as an individual, but you're doing things to serve another teammate, to help and to be there, show your support, and the faith component you talked about and things like that. Anything else you'd add to that in regards to what it takes to build a winning culture as part of?
I think you have to be genuine. I'm not again. People know this have worked with me. I'm not the greatest. I never had the training. Like I know I was under Minute George. I wasn't on the varsity, so I had to kind of figure out a lot of stuff. From him, quick lessons from Joe Moore, and I took a lot of his his teachings and put together what I learned from a little bit I learned in college. But for the most part, I don't have the background. I didn't sit there for 20 years as an assistant coach and learned and sponged everything. So to me, it was been. My personality kind of fits in it. I was kind of joke. I'm a fat guy with low self-esteem, but it kind of works for me. I mean, honestly, so I don't feel like, I don't walk around like, I'm more important than anybody else. I feel like I think that humility is important, and it's got to be true. You can't fake it. And I think the other part is, the players got to know that you truly care about them as a person. You can't fake that either. That means you got to put extra time in. You got to talk to them about their lives and what's going on with, their grades, and it's not just and then a lot of coaches. My formula for success was literally love my players, and then when they couldn't do anything for me anymore, help them out. Okay, so meaning when they're done playing for me, then I'm gonna try to get them into college, and that was a simple thing. And back then it was incredibly difficult. We didn't have Huddle's like an online thing where a player could make his highlight tape in a couple of hours now. Yeah. Back then, they were coming over to my house. My wife's putting out popcorn and stuff. We're sitting there for, 8-9 hours making one highlight tape. And that's just one player. The one year we had 37 seniors. Okay, so, and I would stay up at night, pop in. I had a 5-stack VHS copier. I put the master into the master, and I record all the other ones. I'd label all of them. I'd send them out to colleges. You have to mail everything out. I'd write a letter for each kid individually. You can't. That's the stuff. And kids would talk about it, and then so we never recruited. We never had to recruit anybody because kids would go and go, listen, this guy takes care of you. He's not. He's gonna not just use you as a player and. I didn't get everybody, a scholarship, but kids ended up usually where they deserve to be. And, there's times I wish kids could go a little bit higher. I could probably name a couple of them.
Right.
But I don't control that, but I do control the message getting out.
Yeah.
I'm not the one on the other side making the decisions. No.
Right.
But that's to me, I never understood why coaches just didn't make that extra effort. That's why people wanted to come here. That's why people wanted to play here, because they were like, hey, I'm gonna have a chance to be seen at the highest level, in a team that wins, and that possibly going to be able to get in a state championship, play as many games as possible, and have a chance to succeed. But then also have somebody cares enough about me that they're going to try to help me out at the end of this when they can't help, when I can't help them anymore.
Right.
Last thing on that is I always kind of tell my players, I'm like, I always laugh and say, well, they use you down there at prep, they'll use you, and I'm like, well, that's what every relationship. I hate the negative connotation of we're using each other.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, you use me, I use you. I mean, it's like that's what every relationship does. My wife uses me, I use her for things. It's like it's like this negative thing. That's called a relationship.
Yeah.
So I mean, I expect a kid to come into prep and use everybody they possibly can. Use us to death. I mean, come in here, use the teachers, use the faculty, use our guidance people, use our administration.
You'd be a fool if you weren't a student that took advantage of the opportunities here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Use our alumni. I mean, use us. That's what the whole thing is about. That's why you're coming here.
Correct.
So
it wouldn't be a brotherhood and now sisterhood if it wasn't for those relationships to provide that access to you.
Absolutely.
And do that.
Yeah.
So last thing on the football side of things, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least ask you kind of more of a general question, but just looking back, is there any specific moments that really stick out to you more than others, certain accomplishments or anything else that really just means a lot to you? And then we'll kind of wrap up the podcast after that.
Yeah, I mean, more or less as far as specifics, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard. It could be anywhere from a senior sleepover to, Camp Notre Dame was just always something very important to me, and getting us out to Camp Notre Dame and continuing that tradition. I went to Camp Notre Dame when I was a player here under Minna, and but just having the pranks and the night stuff that went on. I mean, I remember. It's a quick thing, but I used to do. I would do bed checks, and they were supposed to have lights out at certain times, and I remember going to this one cabin, the running backs cabin, and there's a kid named Milano Jones. Sully Johnson was on the team too. He was in the cabin. I can't remember everybody else who was in there, but if I go in there, all their iPad lights are on, or phone lights are all lit up. I go, hey, you guys were supposed to be asleep,
right?
45 minutes ago. Get to bed. Give them a real stern talk, and then. But then the whole place, they turn off all their lights. It's pitch dark in there. So I shoved the screen door open, and it slams back, and I took like 2 fake steps, and I just sat. I was still in the cabin, and they nobody said a word, and then they think I walk away, and Milano Jones goes, I should have offered him a cheeseburger, and so they all start giggling, and So anyway, all of a sudden the lights start popping back on, and he doesn't even know it, but I snuck back right where his bunk was, and I stuck my head in between his iPad and between his iPad and his face, and I go, I think I'll have that cheeseburger. And I was like, blew the whistle. I got the whole team on the field. We're doing up downs, and but it was just stories like that Coach Saitok has
so funny,
so many. But it's again, it's not about raising a trophy. It's the ongoing relationships throughout the years. It's every team, whether they were, state champs or, and we had a couple teams that weren't even 500, I think 1 or 2, and everyone had a special every team was special to me, and so I sit there and name 1 or 2 moments, and I don't know why I just went down the cheeseburger story.
No, that's a great story to share.
Yeah. But it was those are kind of stories, we tried to scare the kids, and I remember Chris Feeney dressing up in a gorilla outfit, pretending he was Bigfoot in the woods. He's 6'5", 300 pounds back at that time, and just trying to prank the kids, having fun. So things that they remember and talk about. Every one of them that they say Camp Notre Dame was my favorite part, and it's weird because all those plays and all those touchdowns and all those first downs and tackles and goal line stands, and that's what they remember is the relationships and those special moments.
Well, that's when you're doing something right? I mean, when you have those type of memories for the kids, and that's what they cherish is their whole experience being a part of the program, not just the wins and losses and all that.
If it's just about that, you haven't really done your job. So.
Right. So that's great. I wanted to make sure we talked about your time coaching because what an opportunity to get a chance to just chat with you a little bit about that. So, nowadays, Mike Mischler, Vice President of Operations for Cathedral Prep. We talked a little bit about, the origin of CPAC and your involvement there. Can you share with people a little bit about what your role is now for Prep, what you're doing, and what the future holds maybe for Mike Mischler with the senior administration team, things of that nature?
Well, I appreciate Kevin Smith, promoting me up to, back up to the senior administration. I was on it for 10 years, like I said earlier, and he put me up. Kevin's doing a great job. He's come in from out of town. He's like anything else, you have a learning curve, and this is a very unique position and a very difficult time because of the merger, so he's been wonderful to work for. So I appreciate him bringing me up. But one of the things I felt I could provide was some institutional knowledge. I've been here for so long. Much like Bill Flanagan, who's been around, and Chet Moffitt's been around for a while. He's on the senior administration, but you need those couple of those older guys in there that have some experience, and I felt like that was something I could provide. So I'm hoping I'm doing that. But my main job is operations, is basically facilities, and under that would be maintenance, custodial. So we keep the place clean and we fix everything, and it goes well beyond that. I feel like I've tried to. There's been a lot of people before me have had the position that were more like, they were not only the managers but the wrench turners too, and this has given me more of a chance to kind of get us to where I think we should be, organizationally, so that includes safety as well. So safety is a huge thing in any school these days, with the shootings that are happening in many schools around the country, and we want to make sure we're following all the protocols. Will Patuch is basically our principal, our vice president of academics and student affairs, but he over at the school here, and he's he and I kind of, and Rick Herbst kind of oversee the safety component, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into the more of the building maintenance side of it that kind of covers, but it's also like trying to more organize our maintenance so we're forward thinking rather than reactionary. So we're not just if a boiler blows up, we're fixing it. We want to make sure we're doing preventive maintenance on everything, having a schedule, scheduling things out for replacement 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now. A lot of organization that way, just having cleaning systems. We're ready to kind of vamp our entire way. We're cleaning the school now, and we finally got a full staff. That way I haven't had one in 3 years since I got hired. It's been hard to hire people in those positions. So, and then when there's projects, any kind of contractor things, when there's projects, that's kind of falls under me as well. And then, I probably should have started, but it includes not just the school here, but then Mother Teresa Academy.
I was going to mention
Haggerty Family Event Center, the McDonald Fieldhouse still has stuff, and we rent or lease property out of Gate of Heaven, so we have, and then we still operate a tennis court and a softball field over at the Villa complex, and all
so properties need cared for. They all need maintenance of one way or another.
Snow removal, all those things.
All of it.
It's a huge job, honestly. So I'm a very busy person, but I love it. I am enjoying it. I'm somebody who likes making lists and knocking them out, and I get my staff does a great job. And then the staff I have over at the event center, I think they're doing a great job. I love working with you on a bunch of stuff, so, and the senior administration team that I do get a chance to work with on a daily basis is a great group of people, a good eclectic mix of people that I think is good for the school right now, and the leadership that they're providing.
And your staff does do a great job, between, like you said, the Tom Swanson, Matt Costa, Don Campbell, Estes Barnes. I'm just naming some of the event center people that I work more personally with on some different things. But your staff does a great job with keeping the school moving forward and getting things done in a timely fashion. And so I want to end with just a couple more questions for you. Looking ahead, to the future of prep, what do you hope to accomplish or contribute to the future of the school in the years to come?
Well, in my role, I want to again provide any type of advice or
Yeah.
and that I could provide, and kind of use my years of experience and knowledge on not always just, hey, this is the way we used to do it, but this is why we shouldn't do that way anymore.
Correct.
There's things, there's always better ways of doing things if you think about it, but you also want to be true to your traditions, but I just want to help the person in charge. Right now it's Kevin Smith, and I hope Kevin stays as long as he wants. He's great to work for. He's a high energy guy, and I think he's got us pointed in the right direction. But I also love working for Father Jabo. I want to make sure I mention him. He was another legend. The guy was
instrumental.
That role for a long time, and and I got a chance to work with Chris Haggerty and Dave Slomsky for a year as well, and learn from them too. So it's like you always want to just learn and then hopefully help to advise as much as you possibly. Use the wisdom that you have and you've discovered over the years, and help the organization move forward that way. I don't know. I guess specifically, I think this is working. I sent a message out earlier, a video message. I think it's working. I know it's been tough on Villa people. No longer in their school anymore. There's no, we're operating under Erie Community, the Erie County Community College. But having the boys and girls under one roof, it's amazing to see it.
It is.
You walk through and it's really pretty cool. It's the kids, are enjoying it. They're thriving, and I just encourage anybody to come down here and see that.
Yeah.
So I want to continue to get that message out. Like I said, I understand Villa people being upset, but but prep's not the old prep either anymore. That's okay. Change has to happen, and sometimes, and so it's happened. The decisions were made, and we're in one school now, and I just wish everybody would get on board that. And the big thing I asked for is everybody become an ambassador of the school.
Yeah.
We would rather not have first class school of excellence that's steeped in the Catholic faith and traditions in our community, or we'd rather that just go away. We need support from alumni.
Yeah.
We need support from people, not just their dollars, but them saying, hey, you need to go check this school out and send your grandkids here and your kids here, because it's going to have it continues to have extreme value, and nothing's going to change that. We're going to be committed under Kevin's leadership. We're going to be committed to making sure that the Cathedral Prep diploma has the highest value in this area, and you'll still have the same opportunities to do well, in life. So to me, that's supporting that message, and then doing my job, making sure we're ready to take on all challenges and things going forward, that we're prepared for stuff, again, being proactive rather than reactive.
Yeah.
I think I have a very important job in the role. It's not as flashy as going out on a Friday night and blowing a whistle, and I do miss that, but this is great. I love the people that work, I work with, and the people that work for me, and that's what I plan on doing. I continue to do this, and if I end up spending my whole rest of my professional career here, great. If not, but right now that's my plan.
Yeah.
So.
And I'll put a little plug in for, I think it was episode 25 of the Rambler podcast. I had Alexa Toyega and Hayden Hutchinson on, and if you are someone who hasn't listened to that episode yet, I highly recommend hearing from the students. Alexa had 3 years at Villa, then 1 year at Prep. Hayden had 3 years of Prep being just all boys, and then this last year co-ed. And you listen to their episode of the podcast based on their experience, and then tailor that to then also say, we come to see what we're all about now. It's not the old Prep. It's not what everything used to be. There's a new foundation here of success, and that we're excited about, and there's great things happening, and we just invite you to come check it out and be a part of it in one way or another. And like Mish said, if it's financial, great. If not, be an ambassador for us and be, telling people to come see what we're all about now and what we got going on, because I've been describing it to people this way. There's a lot of momentum right now at the school, and everybody who's on board right now is just excited about keeping that momentum going for years to come.
And the third thing is
go ahead.
The third thing is to pray for us. Because we need the prayers just like anything else. And I just think those three things are what we need. And right now we really need all three of those things. And because it's these are not easy times, but to your point, and which is what I've been making too. So we've had 2 years here, maybe 3, to get that message out. Of course, you and I are kind of paid to be ambassadors, but we both believe it. We're not saying something we don't believe, but the students aren't, and I mean, we have those 3 years where, okay, they were at another school and they came here, or they were in a different environment and had girls come in.
Right.
So what do they think about that? And I would agree with you. Go listen to that podcast 25. Yeah. That's a great example of it. That's the message that needs to get out, because it's worth listening to, and everybody looking back saying, well, it's not going to be the experience I had. Well, nobody's is the same, so this is what these particular group of kids and going forward are going to have, this whole different experience. But it doesn't mean it can't be fantastic. It doesn't mean it can't be unique. It doesn't mean it can't be the best thing for Erie, Pennsylvania, and to provide for a secondary school.
Right. Well, last question I got for you. So last year, my first year of the podcast, I had a special question I asked every alumni episode guest. Well, I'm doing a new final question that's all for our staff or faculty episodes. That the question is, and I'll tee up before, what does it mean to be a Rambler? So it's a general question I'm going to ask at the end of every episode for our faculty and staff and coaches, to ask them their definition, and I'll ask you now, Mike Mischler.
Right, surprised.
Yeah, it's a surprise. That's why I'm kind of talking a little bit so you can think. But to you, what does it mean to be a Rambler?
To me, currently it's to be a man or woman of faith. Following the teachings of Jesus Christ and our Catholic faith first and foremost, and then it's the best word I can find is striving, or the best words I can find is someone who's committed to strive for excellence, and not in an arrogant way. I've always find it odd that people hold that against you, our standards against us, I guess.
Right.
So we set these high, lofty standards, and people are like, oh, if we have a kid get out of line, oh, that's really Catholic of you, that's real Christian of you. Like, well, we're saying we're trying to strive to be like Christ, So I mean, but we want to be the best. I was never going for runner-up, trophies in District 10, and then that may sound arrogant to people, but that's what we are about here. We want to be the best. You want to win championships. You want to win championships in the classroom. You want to be the best academically. You want to be on the cutting edge of the curriculum. And so, to me, to be a Rambler is somebody who's going to be a faithful person who's always striving for excellence, and someone who's going to be helpful to the fellow man. And again, that's living Christ's example is always being somebody there is going to be there for another fellow human being throughout their lives. And so that's that to me is what a Rambler is, I guess.
I couldn't have had a better answer than that. That's pure gold right there in wisdom. And I would say, to your point, you're striving for excellence in the classroom, on the field, but also in your faith life. As I'm a husband and a father, you're striving for excellence in all areas, and that's something you carry on through your years and what you learn while being at prep. And
that's what I learned when I was here. Yeah, absolutely, and that's always stuck with me. So your parents can teach you so much.
Absolutely.
Kindergarten can teach you so much. They say everything you got to learn is in the kindergarten. I missed 80% of my kindergarten experience because I cracked my skull open after I got my training wheels off. So that's probably what's wrong with me. I didn't really have the kindergarten.
There's some people listening right now thinking, "Oh, that explains a lot."
But definitely my mother. But it was. But yeah, I learned so much from this school, the people in here. And what's great is my daughters learn that same stuff at Villa, and those people have come over. Most of them are over here now, and and trying to instill that same great education that was provided at Villa Marie Academy when it still existed. So these are great times, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Mish, I'm pumped we finally got you on the podcast. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it again, and to all the listeners, thanks for listening to this episode. To what Mish said earlier, if you're somebody who wants to come down for a tour, shoot me or Mish an email, let us know you want to stop by, and we'll take care of you and show you the new building and talk to you about all the exciting things happening at Prep. So, Coach Mish, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Jim. You do a great job with this. Thanks.
You're welcome.